Welcome. You thought I wasn't going to do it, did you? Oh, this camera's always crooked. GCW's The World on GCW. Very interesting title for their pay-per-view, but I'm not the one who made it. Okay, let's make this clear. I don't watch the product, so I don't know everyone here. There's a lot of people who are independent I don't recognize, some I do. So I'll just explain what the matches were like, and if I recognize anybody, I'll tell you. But I'm going to be honest here right now. Was this a good pay-per-view? When it comes to the match quality, most part it was fine. But I'm not going to lie to you. There were two glaring weaknesses. The first one was production. And the second one I'll explain at the last part of this review. And if anyone from who is a GCW fan, and particularly I do remember one of the people who one of the people who commented on there said that GCW is the third biggest promotion as far as they're concerned. I got something to say about that, but let's go through this. First, being at the Hammerstein Ballroom, or Hammerstein Ballroom, whatever. Being at the ballroom at the Manhattan Center was nice. There ain't no lie about it. It was good to see. But the production sucked. I have to say it now. So when you see most of the images I have, they were the best ones I could grab. So the first one was the brass ring ladder match. Nice. I gotta admit that because the WWE has stated this more importantly than anybody else. You must get to the top of our promotion by grabbing the Vince and Kenny McMahon brass ring like his nuts. Them saying this, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the title of this match. Now, the only person I recognize actually I didn't recognize anybody in the match. The only one I remember the name of is AJ Gray. Since he was the last one to come in, I thought, okay, there's one of two ways this is going to go. When AJ Gray came in, he's either going to be doing the most spots or he's going to win the damn thing. And when you watch this match, and it becomes very, due to the fact of how they had the ring set up and how the ring above the ring was positioned, they could never really line their ladders up correctly. So when they were doing a lot of the spots, particularly trying to get the ring, it looked really awkward. And then the camera work that went with it was really bad. It was so horrid that I could barely see what was going on in the ring. Most of the time I got ass shots or backs. And that really pisses me off. For me personally, guys, the match quality in this ladder match was not 100% bad. But with the ring out of position from where they wanted to position the brass ring itself, it made it very difficult for them to do the work they wanted to do. Jumping out of the ring wasn't a problem. Fighting in the ring wasn't a problem. But trying to position themselves to look right to get the ring and then pretty much being able to watch it made the match really bad. Now, AJ Gray won. Now he has a shot to get after any title he wants. He can go after the Extreme title, which is from Jersey Championship Wrestling, the predecessor of Game-Changing Wrestling. That's what it used to be called. Or you can go after the world title, the tag titles, or whatever the other titles you want. That's in GCW. So he's got that shot. Now, trios match, which I saw to be the second best match. I didn't mind it. I did recognize Laredo Kid, which was good to see. At least I recognized him. They did have one wrestler, I think his name was ATK or ASK, or I think it was ASK, I can't be sure. Pretty high flying. Really looked pretty good until he got his face smashed in a couple of times. One of the problems that you got from Lucha Libre, it's very easy to get your face smashed in. But they did pretty well. I mean, it was the second best match of the night for me personally. It was. I didn't mind it. And in the end, I think the heels won. And I have to say that I believe it was Dorado. I can't remember the guy's name. Dorado. He literally got on one of the guys. He jumped off of one spot. He jumped onto one guy's back and then jumped onto a guy's shoulders. I could not catch the image. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch it in time. It was a very nice spot. I will not lie about that. It was damn good. That was a very good Lucha Libre movement. Let's move on. Now, how can I say this? When Sabu showed up after a guy named Warner came out, and a guy named Clogger also came out, those two are part of two factions. Warner was supposedly injured. He's still not cleared to wrestle yet, but he looked like he beat up on Clogger pretty well because they wanted to make sure everyone remembered them. Now, Clogger looked like he's still wrestling, so there's no problem. Warner was the one that's still been gone away and still recovering. So the match, well, not even a match, it was just a fight. And then the faction from either one of them showed up, and then Sabu shows up, which was quite interesting to see Sabu there. Wasn't a bad thing to see Sabu. Always liked Sabu. But seeing this, and since I don't know the stories behind how these factions work, it's not a bad thing. But since I don't know if that was good or bad. I'm just telling you what it is. Now, we had Lio Rush versus a surprising Blake Christian. I haven't seen him since he was on Impact like last year. Haven't seen him in a while. And then you see Lio Rush. And I gotta say this about Lio. I'm gonna say this. Taking away from how talented he is as a high-flying wrestler. I want to make this clear. I'm not against Lio for his skill in the ring. No. I'm not against Lio because of the skill he has in the ring. I'm against Lio Rush because he's a fucking pain in the ass. I'm sorry. What happened in WWE? Clearly he had the right to be upset. No problem. But ever since then, after he left, the guy he's a drama queen. I'm sorry. If you love Lio Rush, more power to you. And I believe he's still a great, talented wrestler. But the boy has issues. He has an attitude problem. And I feel sorry for him when his grandmother died. Honestly, in AEW, his grandmother died. I felt sorry for him. And I still hope he's feeling all right after grieving for his grandmother. But honestly, after what happened with Big Swole, and if I'm right, the reason he's not in AEW right now is because he wasn't getting his way. And because he wasn't getting his way, he's gone. Goes off somewhere else. To keep running around to different promotions, having some level of attitude. If he ever goes to Impact Wrestling, bet you he's going to have an attitude there too. And it won't be because Impact is going to treat him bad either. What is his issue? He needs to straighten his ass out and stop having attitudes. Now, was the match great? It was a good match. It was the third best match. Mind you, there were certain spots that looked bad. When basically once Blake nailed him behind the neck with his knee when he was up against the ropes, I thought he might actually gotten hurt a little bit, concussed. He might even be concussed. But in the end, and this was another problem I had with production, we had a lot of video glitches throughout the night. That wasn't from the cameras. It was from the production group. The ones who were running the cameras, sending the feed off. There was so many glitches. At one point, I lost the entire feed. And I don't think it was from the stream I was watching. I think it was from the feed from them. That their feed just dropped. It happened more than a few times. I think like 2 or 3 times. Their feed just stopped working. Their audio stopped working. The cameras kept flickering at one part of the bottom of the screen. It was that bad. I don't know who won. If I'm right, Blake won because particularly that he's going to get a match against Grissom. Jonathan Grissom, who currently has the ROH title right now, the pure title. So I wouldn't be surprised if he won. I would be shocked if Lio Rush actually won. That would make no damn sense. When you see that Blake has that title shot, he should not be involved in it and make it into a triple threat. If it was able to be a triple threat, I'm just saying. Now, a match that was, what the fuck was I watching? What? There were very few video packages that was shown through the show. But the one connected to this really helped a lot for me personally when it came to Matt Cardona versus a Joey Janela, who I've not seen in quite a long time. I'll explain about Joey in a minute. But they showed a little bit about Joey Janela messing with Chelsea Green, supposing she was messing with him, got Matt mad, and he wanted revenge, and now we get this title. Well, it wasn't really a title match per se, because he did bring his internet title that he had produced back in 2012 or 13. I'm actually kind of glad that he's carrying that thing, and I wish, and I'm hoping what's going on with Jordan Grace and what's going on Impact, that he's going after the Digital Media Championship, which is a downgrade, to be honest. If he turns heel there, messes with the title there, and goes back to normal Impact, I hope he's a heel like we saw here, because he healed that shit up well. He did. I enjoyed his heel work during this match with Chelsea. I did. I really hope that he does heel work back in Impact, because he should. Because he's been doing decent heel work on NWA. He did damn good heel work here. Why can't he just be a heel in Impact Wrestling? I think he'll be better that way. Like I've been saying, the hot mess of Chelsea Green should have a nutty husband in a Matt Cardona. Now, what was this match? It was, and I gotta say, instead of using plywood, at least the look of plywood, they use doors. That is basically particle board or plywood. I actually like the plywood doors. I do. I think it's actually quite nice. Compared to everywhere else where they would use regular chairs, they're using plywood that looks like doors. Unless they're actual doors, which I know they're not because they're too damn light. They would not be able to lift it the way they were doing. Unless it is actual doors. You guys can tell me below if anyone who knows. This match was what? We had Virgil. We had Hornswoggle. We had, who else did we have? We had Stockhouse. We had Brian Myers, X-Pac. Who else did we have? Marco Stunt, who we haven't seen in AEW in months. Either he's not able to wrestle, or he left AEW. I think he might have left. He was really a real platinum blonde now. But this was all in this match. And I'm going, what the fuck? At one point, you see a Chelsea Green nail her own husband in the nuts to trick a Joey Janela so her own husband could nail him really good. And Matt Cardona busts his nose open. I think he broke his nose, so he just got himself a really bad bloody nose. I think he did break his nose. I think he broke it. But basically he won. But I think they're going to have a feud between him, Janela, and X-Pac when it comes to him with Brian Myers, because they are on the same side in the situation. I think I got a shot at them both along with Chelsea. I'm just saying. Here is a match that was very disappointing. Very disappointing because of one of the competitors. No, not Chelsea. Sorry. You got Allie Catch. Yeah, that's the reason I kind of got Chelsea Green and Allie Catch mixed up, because it's... No, I shouldn't get them mixed up. You know the reason why I'm botching here is because of what happened. We had a nice video package of Allie Catch saying how she's wanted to make something out of her life, wanted to find a direction, wanted to keep going in that direction, hoping that the universe will help her. And pretty much, it's all about meeting Ruby Soho, because she always wanted to wrestle her. And she gets the match. She gets what she wants. And it's the first time Ruby comes to GCW. Good. This is Going to be interesting. And the thing about Allie Catch, she's not a small girl. She's built like a Havoc. Literally, she's built like Havoc. If I got a shot, you would see her. She's thick. But here's the difference between her and Havoc. Havoc does not try to be more than what she is. Not taking anything away from Havoc. Havoc is strong. She's smart. She can wrestle. But she knows her limitations in the ring when it comes to high flying. She doesn't do a lot of high flying because she's not built for it. She can do a couple of agile moves, but she knows where she goes. She doesn't try to go too far outside the norm because it'll make her look bad. Then you got Allie Catch, who looks like she's strong, looks like she's, to a certain point, agile, but then she tried to be a high flyer. She tried to do things that a high flyer to do. At one point, you got Ruby Soho taking her when she went into one of the corners. When Allie approached her, she jumped up, grabbed her with her legs, and tried to hammer her straight into the second turnbuckle like she does when she arches back. You know what Allie tried to do? She tried to do the exact same thing, and it looked so botchy because she couldn't even jump high enough back because she had to jump up and back to get her legs in position for Ruby to grab them so she can get the same position as Allie did. Ruby had to bend over and literally grab her legs and then put them on her shoulders before she can do the same moves as Ruby. Why did she do that? She looked terrible trying to copy Ruby. No, this was one of the worst matches that I've seen Ruby be in. And understand, Ruby Soho is a good wrestler. She's really good. But like I always said when she was in WWE and when she wrestled Charlotte Flair, she could only go so far with Charlotte Flair because Charlotte never understood how to put anyone over. She doesn't know how to do it. She can barely get herself over. She can't get anyone else over. And no matter how hard Ruby worked with her, she couldn't do it. Ruby was killing herself trying to make Charlotte look good, and it didn't work. That's the same thing that happened here. Even though Ruby won the match, she was trying to put Allie Catch over. But Allie was trying to do things that physically she shouldn't have been trying to do. Not to limit the woman. I'm making this very clear. You could try and try really hard to make sure you do great moves. And if you learn that certain moves work for you, you do them. She did a great cartwheel. There was no problem with that. But everything else that was trying to be highly active like she's a high flyer failed. In certain cases where she wanted to kick Ruby properly, she couldn't even kick her leg even a third of the height of Ruby Soho. She wanted to be more of a high flyer, high impact person. She can't. And that looked so bad. It looked like crap. So this was the worst match in the entire card for me personally. And I'm going to move on. I kind of wish there was another women's match. Honestly, I wish there had been another one. But let's move on. Here is a match that I did not know how to feel about. Oh, almost poked my eye out with my thumb. What the fuck did I witness? Effie versus the Last Outlaw, taking out from the Undertaker, AJJELL, and whatever. I can't spell. I'm dyslexic. I'm sorry. But seeing Jeff Jarrett, they did a video pack of him and Iffy. He's now working in GCW. Fine. Maybe he's going to be one of the producers of GCW. That might help them because even though he may not be one of the best, you could see particularly how things were running Global Force Wrestling. He does understand about production. He does understand about working with people in the back. No matter, like, the Slug Daddy can't stand him, he does have good experience. And some of that can help. And see that he played part of his music that was more darker. That he was dressed literally like an outlaw. It was actually very interesting. He wasn't trying to do the same old thing like he did. He's actually dark, like someone who was in Tombstone, the movie, where they were just rough riders that don't give a fuck, that will break your face. And I like that. He looked really serious and menacing. He wasn't trying to play into how he used to be. He's actually a serious Jeff Jarrett, and I actually like that. And when you see him, he's only wearing black pants, black belt, black top with his arms cut, not trying to play to the crowd. He is just serious. And that actually really works well. If he went back to Impact with that type of attitude, I think it might get over pretty damn well. And then you got Iffy. I wrote, this guy reminded me of an S&M guy. Submission. And they were talking about, on his trunks, he said on the front, Daddy, Iffy. And the way they were chanting for this guy, he pretty much reminds me of a Joey Ryan. And Mr. Sexy, who loves to be like the 1970s porn stars. This guy is an S&M guy, submission guy. That's what he is. And I'm not talking about doing the submission, putting you like this. I think I'll do that again. Take the whip, line you up against a wall and say, Madam, Master, Mistress, please whip my ass. That is what he reminded me of. And I'm sure you might get that, but that might not get that, but that's how it felt. It was ridiculously a silly match. At one point, I think I got the shot. Unfortunately, I think there was an error with my capture. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it clean. He's rubbing his head on the back. Well, take this back. Jeff Jarrett was nailed by Iffy. He was slung outside the ring, head first, looked like he can tumble straight out. Iffy laid on top of him and rubbed his ass on the top of Jeff Jarrett, top of the back of Jeff Jarrett's head. Fuck. There's been a long time since I've seen someone try and do something that stupid to Jeff Jarrett, or anyone else for that matter. I don't think Jeff actually took that very well. In real life, I think Mr. Jeff got a little pissed. A little bit. In the end, he won. But I can say this. It was interesting seeing Jeff Jarrett as a dark character. If he went back to Impact Wrestling, honestly, if he did it like that, I would agree. Would be very interesting. Now, got 2 matches left, guys. This match right here, at this point, should have been the main event. I'm sorry. If anybody believed that the main event be the main event, no. This should have been the main event. And that is Jon Moxley versus Homicide. Now, I have not seen the Hall of Fame for the Independent Hall of Fame. I haven't seen it yet. But I understand that Homicide was recognized as a Hall of Famer after working 28 years in the business. I didn't know he worked that long. I think like 20, 25 years. I didn't know he worked he worked 28. So that's something new for me to know. And Jon Moxley looked good. This match was very good. I say this is the best match of the night. Other than Homicide possibly getting his tooth knocked out of his mouth. I think it did get knocked out because his mouth was bleeding at one point. Here he is. I do believe I got an image of him having been put into a bull rope choke. And his mouth is bleeding. So it's a possibility he did lose a tooth, but I'm not sure. It, for me, was a good example of what a 17-year veteran and a 28-year veteran can put on. Yes, it wasn't high flying. It was very good impact. You can see that Jon Moxley, and I'm glad he's clean. And I say this again. I don't care if he's a jobber or a main eventer. Only thing I care about with Jon is that he's happy and he's healthy. For me, that's the most important thing. That's what I want for him. To be with Renee and his daughter and to be happy and healthy, no matter if he's opening the show or closing, as long as he's happy and he's sober. That's just me. This was the best match for me. It was. And particularly once pretty much once he got his DDT on, in other words, his paradigm shift onto Homicide and won, after it was over, he hugged Homicide, kissed him on the head. That showed he had a great amount of respect for him. He even bowed to him. That showed that he loved him and respected him. The only thing that got me pissed off, and this is what got me pissed off, they barely cheered for Homicide. I botched my words just now. The man has been around for 28 years. He should have been more respected. If this GCW crowd supposedly cheered like crazy for Nick Gage, why would they not cheer for Homicide? Now, I'm sure people would say, well, you didn't hear all the crowd there. Oh, no. Even with the audio being as crappy, and understand, the audio was crappy. There's no lie about that. I could see the crowd in the background. Whenever they did a back shot, when they did a full shot, I could see them not getting off their asses. They were barely cheering. They didn't care about Homicide almost at all. And if anybody said I'm wrong, bullshit. I could see it. A 28-year veteran that everyone knows and respects. He's trained most of the people they love so much. And they didn't even barely cheer for his ass. Fuck you. Fuck you. And it's not because he's a New Yorker. I'm just saying it because if he's that important, and they know he's that important, and instead of getting off their asses and cheering for his ass, and they're going like this, fuck you. I don't care if they are New Yorkers like me. You can suck my dick. Now, finally, the last match of the night that should have never been the last match of the night. You got the main event of the Briscoes, who currently, were the GCW Tag Champions, who did an open challenge saying, I don't care who comes, we'll face you all. Come to us. We will show you who we are. They called out, and they got two veterans. You got, what is this guy named? Matt Tremont, who is a deathmatch veteran. And then you got, and I realized once they took so long, I realized who it had to be. It had to be Nick Gage. And I was right. They brought Nick Gage in. He ended the show with Tremont. They had a match. At one point, I thought it was going to turn into a death match, but it didn't. They didn't bring out any of the fluorescent lights. None of that. It was just the tables. Well, not the tables, but basically the doors they had. In the end, they won. And Nick Gage did say afterward, he called for his murder, death, kill crew. Many of the ones in the back came out. Pretty much said, I had to go away for a little while. I had to get my body right, my mind right, and my soul right. But I'm back, and I love you motherfuckers totally. He basically said, I don't play around. You know I'm totally honest. I love you motherfuckers. That's what we get. I'm sorry for the cursing, but that's what he said. I'm just iterating what he said. Now, here's the thing where if there's any GCW fans, you ain't gonna like me. Was this a good pay-per-view? No. Was it a bad pay-per-view? No. Was this a great pay-per-view? No. This was a pay-per-view that was okay if the camera work, the audio work was done correctly. Understand, what GCW is to me is another iteration of, guess what, ECW. That's obvious. That's what this is. This is another ECW. Now, mind you, ECW had better production. And if anybody says, you got to understand, they only been around for 6 years. Bullshit. There used to be Jersey Championship Wrestling back in 1999. I looked it up. They got founded in 1999 and they rebranded in 2015. Yes, they may have changed some people out, but I'm sure they kept some people from that promotion when it was rebranded. So don't tell me that shit. I always say this, and if anyone knows me who has seen me for years, it is important to understand the show. Yes, you got to cater to people in the arena. Yes, but if you're filming it, if you're recording it, filming it, or in this case, streaming this motherfucker, you must make sure you check your camera work. Make sure you check your audio work. Make sure that the mics work, because even when those guys were talking, you could barely hear them. The mics sucked. The camera work sucked. The audio sucked. You cannot tell me production value for GCW is good. It's worse than Bush League. And I said this for like NWA when they first restarted after being off over a year and a half due to the fact of the pandemic. They had the production value good because they had the right person running production. But when he had to leave because of the Me Too movement for wrestling, their production value dropped. And then when they went away due to the fact of the pandemic and then came back, they had to start working on the camera work again, which now is actually pretty good. It's more than adequate that you can watch it. Yeah, they have the moments, but at least you can watch it. This was bullshit. So that was one of the reasons why this show sucked. Now, mind you, I'm not talking about the match quality. Whenever you could see the match quality, and we'll make it clear, you could watch this still. When you could see the match quality, the matches were fine, except for Ruby Soho and Allie Catch, which was total crap, because Allie Catch was trying to be a lighter wrestler when she couldn't do even most of the movements. The rest was fine. But here's the other half of this situation for me personally, where I probably will not be doing many reviews at all of GCW. And it's Nick Gage. Look, I saw the special on Nick Gage. I saw what happened when he was doing death matches and literally died in a helicopter heading to the hospital because he bled out. He was lucky he was able to come back. I'm not against Nick Gage. I want to make this clear. If anyone sees this who is a Nick Gage fan or a GCW fan, I'm not against him. But you're telling me, since he's been doing death matches, and then he transitioned to GCW, went to jail twice, that they have mainly orientated this show around him. Yes, they still have their favorites and important people, but the way the fans are gathering around Nick Gage, and then they basically let him close the show, which I understand if he was gone for a while, he's come back, it makes sense. But here, where you should have let John Moxey and Homicide close the damn show, and if you are having weekly tapings of GCW, where you could have brought Nick Gage back then, that would have been better than not letting Homicide, who's been in the business nearly 30 fucking years, have his moment to get a world title from a returning John Moxley, who the crowd at one point was chanting "fuck Bully Ray" because of what he said about him, saying that he needed to apologize when he went to rehab and he didn't need to apologize other than just going to rehab. That undercutted your show. Look, by you orientating the show a lot about Nick Gage, and I'm sure Nick Gage, if they're doing weekly shows, is a strong staple of the thing. But the way it feels, and I've seen the guy who basically owns it, he said himself in the documentary that this show is orientated around Nick Gage. That's where they're going to screw up. And I'm going to say this to anyone. You do not build your brand around someone like Nick. And it's not about saying Nick is a piece of shit, that he's stupid. But when you know for a fact that a guy has issues like he does, and he's around one niche of one type of match, which defines GCW, the death matches defined it. And even if they're moving away from it, it's still about him, the death match, and how his life has been. He can be easy an inspiration, and I commend him for working his ass off to come back after one dying on a helicopter, two messing up the first time, then coming out, helping to build GCW, going back again to jail, then again coming out and trying to straighten his ass out. He's someone you should respect. But still, this is about a business. One of the reasons why ECW went under was because of bad management. And I'm going to say it again, no matter what you say about Paulie, and he's a genius when it comes to building people, he's not great in running a company. It wasn't because just that the network locked him in. It was because it was badly managed. It was badly managed. GCW could end up just like ECW in bad management. Look at Impact Wrestling. As much as I love it, it's had riddled for years with bad freaking management. From Jeff Jarrett, from a Dixie Carter, and at this current time working with Anthem, owned by Anthem, but still the production value isn't always great. How they book their people isn't always great. It's mismanagement that we always see. Look at WWE, it's mismanagement as well. And I'm saying this for GCW. Not to totally go away from Nick. But if they fully orientate their show around him, they need to start going away from him eventually. He cannot be the goal of the promotion. That he is the 100% the bearer of it. They need to move away from him a little bit to make sure that the next generation of GCW legends can be built. If it's always about Nick, the way those people were acting, and they play straight into it, and they continue playing into it, it will hurt them eventually when Nick can't come back, or Nick does something really stupid and he never comes back. Either he kills himself doing a death match, or he gets himself locked up again, or he gets himself stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. So either he goes back to jail, he gets stuck in a wheelchair, or he dies. One of the three can happen with Nick. And if they always make it about Nick, they're going to die. But this is just me. And I hope you enjoyed this GCW pay-per-view of The World on GCW. Please leave a comment below. For the guys and girls who love GCW, please listen to what I'm saying. I'm not disrespecting your promotion that you love so much. I'm not even disrespecting Nick Gage. I'm just telling you the truth. As an honest reviewer who's seen shows for more than 30 years, I'm 50. I could say 40, but I had intermittent for almost 10 years, on and off. I couldn't see it much. My wife at the time didn't like wrestling, so I could barely watch it. But I'm just being honest. That's just me. Peace.